Hello everybody and happy Friday. It is time for Friday Reads with me, Nina Soden, the redheaded author, and today we are talking about Stalking Jack the Ripper. This one is by Kerri, and I will probably say her last name wrong, Maniscalco. We're just gonna call her Kerri. Okay, I was so excited about reading this one. It was recommended to me by a friend and she absolutely loved the book. So I thought, yep, you know what? I love reading about serial killers. I love reading about Jack the Ripper. Definitely gonna take this one up. So I went and got it from the library. It's a great place to get books. And let's talk about it now. All right, my overview review of this one, my rating is 4.25 stars. Let me break that down for you. Writing and story and characters, I gave it 4 stars, and appearance, I gave it 5. Now, I weigh all of those areas equally because although the appearance doesn't have anything to do with the writing, it is a huge reason people pick up the book. All right, the Amazon description for this one is this. 17-year-old Audrey Rose Wadsworth was born a lord's daughter. With a life of wealth and privilege stretched out before her, but between the social teas and silk dress fittings, she leads a forbidden secret life. Against her stern father's wishes and society's expectations, Audrey often slips away to her uncle's laboratory to study the gruesome practice of forensic medicine. When her work on a string of savagely killed corpses drags Audrey into the investigation of a serial murderer, her search for answers brings her close to her own sheltered world. The story's shocking twists and turns, augmented with real sinister period photos, will make this #1 New York Times best-selling debut from author Kerri Maniscalco impossible to forget. Okay, I cannot agree more. This one is definitely impossible to forget. Okay, so let's talk about it. Let's get to the critical points. I've always been fascinated with the mind of serial killers. Not in a creepy way, but in a how could anybody possibly do that sort of way. My mind tends to try desperately to understand that which cannot be understood. And I really believe the mind of a serial killer just can't be understood. With that said, I have read a number of books on Jack the Ripper, and I've even been in a play where I played his final victim in The Bells of Whitechapel by Wayne Miller. So when someone asked me to read this book, when a friend asked me to read and review this book, I jumped at the opportunity. Anything with Jack the Ripper in the title is going to get me to pick it up and read. For writing, I gave it 4 stars. Kerri's writing style is detailed and fluid, very easy to read. I love how easily I was just swept away into this world of the late 1800s while Jack the Ripper was roaming the streets of London. And although at times the story seemed to drag just a bit, bogged down by maybe unnecessary scenes, it didn't distract me from the overall story, from the overall arch of the story. I loved her style, and I'm so eager to read more of it. So that is what I thought of the writing. Let's move on and talk about story. So for story, I also gave this one 4 stars. Audrey Rose, our heroine, is a member of high society, expected to attend tea and brunch with the ladies and accept her place in society as this uneducated woman. Now, I would have a hard time with that, but luckily I was not born in the 1800s. Audrey Rose doesn't accept it either. She has this passion for knowledge and a curiosity for forensic science that, knowing her place in society, just can't snub out. She sneaks behind her father's back and she studies under the tutelage of her uncle, spending many a days and many a nights elbow deep in the viscera of the latest cadaver he has collected. Yeah. The author leads us down a few paths, making the reader question who the killer is, who Jack the Ripper is, and I'll admit I made a couple of wrong guesses, but I did get it right on my third guess. About halfway through the book, I think, maybe a little bit past halfway. So if you pay attention, the clues are there. So when you read it, make sure you're paying really close attention. Okay, characters, I gave this one 4 stars as well. On the cover here is our Audrey Rose. The book has a very small cast of primary characters. The 2 main characters being Audrey Rose and Thomas Cresswell. So we're also introduced to Audrey's uncle Jonathan, her brother Nathaniel, and her father, Lord Edmund Wadsworth, her aunt Amelia, I love that name, and her cousin Lisa, along with a few others thrown in like the police chief and all of that. Audrey Rose isn't your typical 1800s lady, but I found her to be very fun and feisty and all around relatable, which was so nice in a period piece like this. Like many teenagers, she often acts without thinking, she jumps to conclusions, and she puts herself into dangerous situations that she probably should not do. She is strong-willed and brave, and it's that bravery and her courage that I enjoyed so much about her character. The way she just didn't care about blending in, fitting in. She was who she was, and she didn't care what other people thought of her, and she didn't look for approval in other people. She just wanted to be the person she was, and she went with it. She went 100% in being who she is, and I just absolutely love that about her. All right, Thomas Cresswell. He fancies Audrey Rose, and it's noticeable from just about the first moment he meets her. And it is so much fun because he is devilishly handsome. He is smooth talking, and he's the bad boy in the book. And yet he's also the good guy, and that's so much fun. So, like I said, he's the bad guy, and that is what our author leads you to believe so often. I loved the way that he and Audrey play off of each other. Their bantering is beautiful. The chemistry between them is evident right from the start. But back in the 1800s, that wasn't proper to show. You couldn't act on your emotions the way that so many people do now. They had to be more restrained. And that push and pull in their relationship, that push and pull of emotions, is so much fun to read. Okay, for appearance, I gave this one 5 stars because, I mean, come on, beautiful cover, right? So we have a very clear image of what Audrey Rose looks like. Sure, we can't see her entire face, but we could get a pretty good idea of what Audrey Rose looks like, her place in society based on her clothing. I will admit that the girl on the cover isn't exactly what I picture when I read Audrey Rose in this book, but definitely her attitude is there. We also get a visual down here of the dark streets of Victorian era London. And I think that the cover artist did a really beautiful job bringing this cover together to represent what is in the book and the story and the author's voice. Okay, I do have some favorite quotes from this one. I do like to pull out at least one favorite quote from every book and every movie I review. In this book, I have 3. The first one is this. Roses have both petals and thorns, my dark flower. You needn't believe something weak because it appears delicate. Show the world your bravery. I love that, right? Roses have petals and thorns. They aren't weak. They are fierce. They are feisty. And they are beautiful and they are brave. Show the world your bravery. All right. Quote number 2 is this. Fear is a hungry beast. The more you feed it, the more it grows. Right? Truth in that. How often do we get afraid of something, and then the more we think about it, the more we feed that anxiety, that fear, the bigger it grows, right? Face your fears. All right. The third one is this. It is a little bit longer. In my spare time, I flay open bodies of the deceased, 2 of whom were victims of leather apron. The scent that hung in the room would drop a man to his knees, and I aided my uncle during the post-mortems while standing in gelled blood. Whatever you have to show us won't be too much for my stomach to handle, I assure you. Okay, so the reason I love this quote is obviously it is Audrey Rose saying it, but she is showing her courage. She is showing her strength. She is showing that just because she's a girl of the 1800s doesn't mean she can't stand up, take charge, and do just exactly what a man can. This is a huge, huge moment for her because it is her standing up saying, don't look at me differently just because I'm a girl. And as a feminist, I think this is awesome. So that quote is awesome for me. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the author. Kerri grew up in a semi-haunted house, she says, outside of New York City, where her fascination with Gothic settings first began. In her spare time, she reads everything she can get her hands on, cooks all kinds of food with her family and friends, and drinks entirely too much tea while discussing life's finer points with her cats. She's a cat lady. All right, I love her already. I would swap out the tea for coffee if it were me, but everything else sounds amazing. All right, everybody, that is Friday Reads with me, Nina Soden, the redheaded author. If you liked this video, please click like below and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. You can also click on that little bell below so that you never miss a video. If you follow the link in the description below, you can purchase your very own copy of Stalking Jack the Ripper. And you can also check out my blog review, which will give you links to all of her other books. So be sure to go ahead and follow that link down below and check out all of her books. All right, guys, until next time, happy reading.